Hello and welcome. Welcome to Power Woman TV. This is Evie Hernandez, your host, here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for our Power Women Worldwide, Power Women TV. And today I have a very special guest that I'm going to introduce. And before I do that, I want to make sure, as always, that you feel free to write your comments or any questions you have below, as I will be monitoring that and I'll make sure to post them right here, as well as ask our distinguished guests. I want to thank you for those of you who tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. to our Power Women live TV show. My name is Evie Hernandez. I am proud to say that I am part of the Power Women Elite. If you want to find out more about Power Women Elite, make sure to visit powerwomenelite.com today. And by the way, I'm also very proud to say that I'm a certified virtual presenter. If you would like to find out how you too can become a certified virtual presenter, make sure to visit powerwomenworldwide.com and you can find out how you too can become that. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. I'll make sure to share all your comments and questions with our very distinguished guest. And I'm excited that she's joining us because she said, and I believe she's right, she is going to be amazing. She's going to be introducing some of us to some concepts that we may not be aware of, even if we've been in business for a while. So go ahead. Pay attention, shut off your phone, and let's listen to our guest today. Mindy, welcome.
Welcome. I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Mindy, some people may not know you. So why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about Mindy, about your business. What is that Mindy Barker Associates? What is that all about? Please.
Okay, thank you. I am a CPA and I've been the CFO of small and large organizations. I've also been a principal and a CFO of a private equity firm. And I also did a little stint in sales. So all of that gives me such broad perspective on business to help me think strategically alongside entrepreneurs to help them get their business noticed by investors and also to help them provide financial clarity for themselves as they're running the business day to day. Because guess what? The information that they need to provide to investors is exactly what they need to run their business day to day. Even if they never want to talk to an investor, you still need to know what your numbers are. You need to go a little bit past, do I have enough money in the bank to make payroll this Friday? It needs to be a little bit deeper dive.
I love that. I love that. And it's really, you will agree perhaps, it doesn't matter how big or small your company is, right?
Right.
Now, since you are the expert and you did mention the importance of clarity to know the day to day, are those the main challenges that in your experience you see that business owners encounter, that they don't have clarity, that they don't know how they're making money, if they're profitable? Can you elaborate on that a little bit and educate us?
Yeah, so one of the things that really is a problem for large and small businesses, I see this in huge businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses. They don't have cash flow projections. They don't know how much money they're going to spend in the next 12 weeks. And if they are getting ready to be in financial dire straits or not have enough cash to make payroll, they probably don't know it until the Wednesday or Thursday before the payroll is due. And it's just, I don't understand it. So that all the historical information is there, and you need to just use a little bit of thinking to do a cash week. I tell everyone you need a rolling cash flow so you know what your cash flow needs are for the next 12 weeks. You know what your income and you know what your balances are, and that you know that you can cover the money. Now that is what you need to run your business day to day, and also investors are going to want to know about that too. But investors are going to ask you, what is your cash burn rate? And I have had so many investors come to me and say, well, I did go meet with the investors. They started to ask you. They asked me what my cash burn rate is. They asked me all these questions, and I sat there like deer in the headlights And
Yeah, what is that? What is that? What is
cash
that
burn
term?
rate is how much money are you spending month to month. Like, for example, they don't want to give you $1 million. If your cash burn rate is $1 million, you're going to be out in a month. But I mean, why would they do that? That you might as well flush money down the toilet, right? So they want to understand how much money are you going to use and how much money do you have in the bank. And yes, Peggy, people are scared of this. They're scared that I am going to tell them that they need to go meet with a bankruptcy attorney. Now, unfortunately, I have had to do that.
Mm.
But, I do it very gently. But it's a fact of life that sometimes circumstances change in a business, that people can work hard, they can do all the right things. But if you do a good job of projecting your cash flow and really seriously looking at the financial clarity of your business, then you can avoid it in most circumstances. I think right now we're seeing unprecedented times, and there's some businesses that were incredibly profitable pre-COVID.
Yes.
In a situation like COVID can impact cash flow tremendously. But you know what? At the same time, it can also impact cash flow. Like, for example, some of the grocery stores. I mean, we experienced empty shelves, right? It wasn't because the manager at that Publix or whatever grocery store you were in didn't want to give you Lysol wipes. He didn't have them to sell. And so that was and a lot of the behind the scenes distribution issues with us not being able to get food into the grocery stores was very complicated, because a lot of the distribution of food would go to restaurants. Well, the restaurants were closed. Well, to just pick up a long haul truck and drive it to Publix rather than Ruth Chris is not as easy as it would seem to you and I. So those types of things had to be very strategically dealt with. A lot of the hospitals that all of a sudden they didn't have cash flow from elective procedures, and the airlines. I sat on a webinar where the CFO of JetBlue was talking, and I mean, it just made my skin crawl listening to him talk about trying to revamp his business during COVID because people stopped flying.
I have a question. Why is it that this happens in both the big business and the small business? Is it because people are not watching, they're not mindful, they don't know any better, or maybe they don't have specific tools that you as a CPA and someone who's advising can help anyone from like a big corporation to a small business? What is it?
Okay, so
what are those tools?
Large businesses, it's all here. Okay. And and especially today in today's corporate environment, most people, when they get up and they drive to their office or they work at their house, if they're in corporate America, they are focusing on surviving the day and not getting laid off. And unfortunately, in America, with the layoffs and the inability to provide loyalty both ways between the corporations and the business, they've cultivated this. So what happens is that IT people, for example, may work on building a product themselves. We have to build it internally. We can't buy it off the shelf. And I'm like, hey, well, I know you can buy a lot of those types of products off the shelf, and we're spending millions of dollars on this. And then at one point, somebody makes them show something, and it turns out it's vaporware, and that you have all these people making hundreds of thousands of dollars year over year. That happens a lot. You can go to publicly traded companies that make multi-million dollars and read a few annual reports and find some of that. And people don't want to lose what they truly believe keeps them vibrant and healthy. But but we have a fiduciary responsibility in almost every job that we have to watch out for the company's money.
So I have a few questions. How does a service business deal with this cash flow and cash flow issues? A service business.
Well, I deal with it right now. So it is difficult to deal with, and you have to work on setting up, making sure that your contracts, your fixed contracts, are such that you're confident that you can bring in enough money every month to cover all of those all of those charges. Like, for example, all of the softwares that we get used to, like Dropbox and MailChimp and things like that, they cost money. And it adds up. You think, oh, it's only $30 a month. Well, multiply that times 12. So you then take $30 a month and multiply it times 12. It can start adding up. So what I do in my business is I have an Excel spreadsheet and all of those subscriptions are on it. And I look at it every single month. What's coming up for renewal? Am I still using it? Do I still need this? And the Power Women Elite is one of the first things on the list, and that's a yes. It stays on there. So the profitability by product or service is so important, and even by customer, because sometimes a customer will work you over and make you jump through hoops and jump up and down this mountain and climb this tree to deliver the product or service, and you're like, that wasn't worth it. That was not worth it. And you need to fire that customer and you'll feel so much better. But then it's scary to let go of it.
Yes.
Because you're afraid, like, how am I going to replace that revenue? And I think that's even more true in COVID. It's like, how am I going to replace that revenue? How am I going to, that even happened to me because I'm a huge networker. I love to go out and meet with people. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to go out and network. How am I going to keep this churn in new business? So I actually have gotten pretty strategic that whenever I do virtual webinars, I participate in the virtual networking, like if it's an international thing, I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm going till 9 o'clock at night most of the time. I'm like, I'm going to get my money's worth out of this with the virtual networking. And then even while other presenters are presenting, if there's names and the participants that are there, I write it down. Then I go to LinkedIn. I said, saw you on such and such, love to chat and do a remote coffee. And those days are huge work days for me.
I love that. You know why? Because that's what I've been doing. I have met so many people, more so now because I do the same thing. I love that you said that. Now, here Pegeen writes, have an Excel sheet. You mentioned that with all your subscriptions. Now, for me, I like that too because I use Excel. But my question is, do you have some type of other program? Excel is great. We all have it already in our Microsoft. Because I know that for smaller businesses like me, how can we monitor that? I mean, for example, like we use QuickBooks, right? But we're not constantly looking at QuickBooks. Like for me, it's my beloved who's always looking at that in my CPA. So what should we do? Is that the easiest thing, just to put it in an Excel spreadsheet and just look at it? Is that our simplest way?
Well, QuickBooks Online is a great tool, and it provides you the opportunity to break down revenue into classes that would allow you to keep your different revenue streams and know if it is which is more profitable. Like I do nonprofit work and I do for-profit work. I do some nonprofit work, but I keep up with what the percentage is, and because I always want the profit work to be more than the nonprofit. And so I just keep up with the different classes of that in my QuickBooks. And the other thing is you can also do different jobs, and you can keep up with information by customer. Like if I pay a contractor to work on a specific customer, then I can move it to that customer, and then I can do a P&L by customer.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Pegeen had a question here. Well, she's got a few. Let me ask you one that she asked. If a business has $4,000 in costs every month, a business knows that they know, is that cash flow? The business has in costs every month.
Yeah, so that $1,000 going out every month is going to get paid somehow. So you've got to pay yourself. Always pay yourself. Always pay yourself. So you've got to pay yourself what your family needs to pay their bills, and then you've got to, let's say the $4,000 was all the cost you had, right? Mm-hmm. And your monthly salary is $5,000. Then you have to sell at least $9,000 worth of business, and not only sell it but collect it. And that's another thing that has been I mean, I have to be totally honest. It's been shocking to me in the entrepreneurial world who gives you a hard time about paying money. It
Um,
really is. It,
But you said something that since you're a CPA, I want to ask you because when I was doing my MBA, I never got this, now that you mentioned it, so how is it better for us, or what are the two ways that we can keep? I forget the terminology. Whether people pay you and you're calling that, I forgot what that's called when you count the money that you sold versus the money that's in hand. There's a CPA accounting term. What is that?
it's an accounts receiving aging analysis. And so you may have billed revenue, but you
Mhm.
haven't collected it.
Right, and there's two accounting terms, right? That go. I always get them confused. Do you do?
Oh, cash or accrual.
Oh,
If
yes,
you
yes,
do
yes,
cash
yes.
or accrual method. So if you've accrued $10,000 worth of revenue, but they haven't, you really should accrue the revenue during the time period that you did the work. And then, so it should be an accounts receivable until you receive the money. And some of the larger corporations that I've done work with, they put you on a 30, it doesn't matter when you send the invoice, they're paying you in 30 days. And I figured that out quick. So I made sure I sent it 30 days before it was the date due, right? And you also, Donna Reed is great at reminding all of us when you send an invoice, make sure there's a radio button on there. You can pay with a credit card, and you can, pay with ACH information. And you've got to get paid. None of us are doing this just out of the goodness of our heart. We love our customers, but we still have to be true to ourselves and our family.
It's like Peggy says, you got to get paid, honey.
We got to get paid.
Now, Peggy asked the question: how does financial sales and marketing connect strategically? And by the way, I love that you're using the word strategically because that's one of my words.
Right,
so,
right.
how do we connect that?
Okay. This, I love talking about this because this happens all the time. So, the fast-paced, fast-growing companies, they're like, this is great. We've closed like $5 or $10 million of revenue. Next year, we can do 20 million. I'm like, okay. So, when you meet a customer, from the first time you touch them till close is how long? Oh, that's 90 to 120 days. Okay. So how many customers are in that pipeline right now, right? And how much annual revenue do you think you can get from them? So then you start doing that math, right? Well, how many customers can you put in the pipeline in the next 18 months? And then you say, okay, and then I do like what I call a waterfall for them. And I show, okay, so if you close 100% of the people in your pipeline, plus you reach all of those additional customers, and you keep the customers that you have, none of them leave, I'm getting $14 million. I don't see how you're getting to 20 million. Most people do not think about their sales cycle. They don't keep the information in a CRM. Huge mistake, huge mistake. Get a CRM, keep that information there. And then make sure that you can do the math to get to the projected sales that you are going to tell yourself, your significant other, your family, your children, and investors. Because I mean, honestly, sometimes telling your family you're not going to make your projections is worse than telling investors, right? Because that means we need to take more money out of the 401k or the IRA, baby. And that's not a good happy trail conversation either.
No, it isn't. Now, I read that women CEOs pay themselves way less than men. How do you determine your salary?
I usually dive into that all the time. Because some months you may have a lot of revenue coming in and you think, well, should I increase my salary this month or should I just keep some of the money in the business? And I think that I've spoken to my CPA who does my tax return about this. And the general rule of thumb is you need to pay yourself a salary and pay payroll taxes based on that average salary that you would command out in the corporate world or what have you, and measure and monitor it that way. And if you're unable to pay yourself that salary, you probably need to think about going to get a job, right?
So that means we should actually be writing ourselves a check each and every month and make sure that we just don't leave that money there in our business bank account.
Right. But I mean, sometimes you do. Like I had a couple of really huge months in 2019, but I didn't pay myself more during those months. I just kept the money, and I invested in the business. So
Yeah.
that's really a great idea too. It's turned out is proven to be very profitable for me, but it was a great idea.
Now, I want to dive a little bit as we are about 10 minutes left to the show, talking a little bit about your successes because you know how to run a business, you're financially savvy. So, I want to hear a little bit about what the successes you've had over the past few months, especially during this pandemic. And then, of course, I want to hear about how being a member of the Power Women Elite has helped you in your business?
Okay, great. Okay, so when COVID first started in March, I was actually serving as an interim CFO for a large business that was in the process of negotiating a transaction. And for several reasons, that transaction needed to close on March 31st. And for a whole host of reasons, we didn't get a term sheet until 5 days before March 31st to get the deal. And we got it done in 5 days. It was a whirlwind. It was an exhilarating experience that I will never forget the rest of my life, but we got it done. So that was a lot of fun. I also have, like I said, I came up with my strategic networking thing after I had a little bit of a meltdown. I can't go party with people now. I'm not going to be able to get new business. And I'm like, okay, we got a party online here, girl. You just got to get it together. So I did that. And I also attended a conference that usually is held in New York City that they did virtually. And I met people all over the world. And I met, so I actually, the city of LA did this special entrepreneurial program. 500 people applied, 50 were admitted, and I was the opening speaker for that program a couple of weeks ago. And it was because I met somebody at that virtual webinar that was usually held in New York, and they invited me to do that. So that was great. And then I also am working with a company as a fractional CFO. They're growing at 20%, and they want to grow at 100%. And so we're working on putting together the financial infrastructure to help them do that. And I help them even select a marketing and advertising agency that aligned with their needs and their values. And we're working hard on that. So I love doing all that. And going to the Power Women Elite, I just absolutely love working with the women in the group. Is great. It gives you a lot of energy. It gives you a lot of confidence, a lot of new ideas, and I enjoy that. Because in some ways, entrepreneurship is kind of a lonely business. You don't walk into, even pre-COVID, you don't walk into an office and say good morning to people you see every single day. So having like a group that you're part of the family is really helpful. And I love the one-on-one coaching sessions with Becky. And, the other thing I love about Becky is like, if we ever get down or we have a bad day or whatever, she's like, okay, honey, just go and renew your spirit and then suck it up, buttercup, get back at it and make some money. and she's a great coach and helps pull out what is unique about you to help you sell yourself. Because, sometimes you need somebody to dig into that, help you understand. Because sometimes when it's inside you, you don't really understand that it's unique. But somebody from the outside can say, I've never heard anybody say that like that. I think you should write a blog post about that. You write a blog post, next thing somebody's saying, that blog post made me think, maybe I need you to look at something. And voila, you got a new customer. It's all part of the cycle.
Absolutely. So, Mindy, I love that you are unique. The elite are unique. I love that. Yes, and we're so grateful for the Power Women Elite because yes, every woman that I've interviewed here, really feels very, very grateful for our group because we are powerful. We are really powerful. MindyBarkerAssociates.com. What kind of resources do you have there available? Can people go there to find some resources? Can people contact you if they have questions? Tell us, please.
Yes, on the website, there's lots of blog posts and lots of information. There's also a contact Mindy page, and I would love for you to fill that out, and then we can have a nice chat about your financial needs and your strategy. And there's my book. You can purchase my book on Amazon. I have it in the paperback version. I also have it in the Kindle and the audio version. I actually read the entire book myself, and there's an audio book out there as well.
That is so cool. So once again, what's the name of the book?
Pitching to Win, Strategies for Success.
Awesome. And now, is this good for anyone who wants to learn how to pitch their business, or is it just if we're looking for angel investors?
I think it's great for anyone who's running a business. There's lots of information in there about the infrastructure of a business and why you need the infrastructure. I actually did a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce at one time, and we talked about the book, and one of the girls went and read the book, and then as she saw me at a networking event in a couple of weeks, she said, I never want to sell my business, but your book was so helpful in me understanding how to run my business day to day. So I thought that was a huge compliment.
That is awesome. So Mindy, we have a couple of minutes left. Are there any other words of wisdom that you would like to share with our Power Women? You know, we have an amazing Power Women group comprised of many women from many walks of life with different types of business models. What are 2 or 3 quick little tips that you can leave us with last minute advice in the last minute that we have?
Well, all of you have a passion. All of you have a strategy in your mind. Make sure you put it on paper in a system and track it. Track it some way. Set up QuickBooks Online. I mean, if you can't set up QuickBooks Online or you can't afford that, you don't have the time, write it down on a napkin, piece of paper, Excel spreadsheet, but track it. And also keep up with your CRM, keep up with your contacts. You never know when you might need somebody. My CRM is full of contacts from my entire career. And I absolutely am amazed at who reaches out to me that I haven't heard from in sometimes 10 and 15 years. Your network is very profitable, and that you should mine it. You should also maintain it, and either in Outlook, Zoho CRM, Salesforce CRM. There's lots of options based on what you need, but spend money on infrastructure. My next book is Insanity or Infrastructure, Your Choice.
Say it one more time.
Insanity or infrastructure, your choice.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And yes, I believe, Mindy, it's so important to have a CRM. And I love that I had a chance to get to know more about you and what you teach, because you talked about strategy and you talked about money and strategy and money and marketing. The 2 M's are so important that we remember. So I love that. And I love that you mentioned the importance of having CRM. There are many. I mean, most of the time I talk to people about Constant Contact, which is not a CRM, it's for email marketing. But I tell people, if you can't afford it, keep some notes behind there, because there is a space. But there's also great products that have trials and even free versions like HubSpot. Right. So I tell some of my clients about that. So there's no excuse not to be better at tracking. So I love that you said some keywords that really resonate with me as a professional marketing speaker and as a marketer and entrepreneur. So thank you so much. Remember, thank you so much for being here. I want to encourage anyone to reach out to Mindy by going to Mindy Barker Associates. And also, if you feel like you want to find out more about Power Women Elite, make sure to go powerwomenelite.com to join this elite group of powerful women. So go to powerwomenelite.com. And of course, if you want to reach out to me, remember that I can be found in bizniversity.com. And of course, if you didn't get enough of me, you can join me inside of Facebook right here for my own Bizniversity Facebook Live Biz TV at 7 p.m. today. So I want to say thank you to our Power Women, our Power Women Elite, Mindy Barker today, and of course, our fearless leader, Pegeen, for putting together the wonderful and amazing Power Women Worldwide, Power Women Elite, and this wonderful Power Women TV show. As always, please remember to mark your calendar. We are here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, and until next time, this is Evie Hernandez. Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you.